Football is very famously a fantastically superstitious sport. Virtually every footballer has some ritual or superstition with zero basis in reason, whether it be putting a certain sock on first, sitting in a specific spot in a dressing room, or if you're really weird like Jack Grealish, wearing child-sized shin pads. Hey, whatever works for you, and it certainly seems to be working for Grealish these days. Being a man of science, whose beliefs are firmly rooted in fact, reason and logic, naturally, I have little time for such childish nonsense. Because if I did accept that curses were real, I'd have to come to terms with the fact that there's clearly a curse against Hull City ever winning a major trophy, and although it's been 116 years, I refuse to give up hope. Anyhow, every now and then a video idea generates such momentum that I have no option but to make it, for fear of losing our nickname here at HITC Sevens of the People's Channel. This is one such video, so I hope everyone who has requested it thoroughly enjoys it, in addition to the rest of you of course. Quick note, there are many more than 7 supposed curses in football, so these are just 7 that I've picked out for your viewing pleasure. Here are 7 curses from the world of football. The Curse of Bela Guttmann. Possibly the best known curse in football, or at least the one that I've been familiar with for the longest time, I suspect many of you know about, or at least have heard about, the Curse of Bela Guttmann. For those of you who don't know, Bela Guttmann was one of the most prolific and successful coaches of the 20th century. An extraordinary man who lived an extraordinary life, Guttmann lost most of the money he had made during his playing days during the Wall Street crash, having invested in the stock market whilst playing in New York. He escaped from a Nazi labour camp before being sent to Auschwitz, and he pioneered the attacking 4-2-4 formation. In fact, I really ought to make an entire video about Guttmann, even if only about 30 people would watch it. There isn't time to explore the remarkable details of Guttmann's life here, but the Curse of Bela Guttmann refers to a curse Guttmann put on the club that he is arguably best associated with. Bela Guttmann managed Portuguese giants Benfica twice, but most notably from 1959 to 1962. In just 3 years, Guttmann sacked 20 Benfica players, he signed the club's greatest player of all time, and he created the finest outfit in the history of Portuguese football. The man he signed was Eusebio, and together, Guttmann and Eusebio would win the European Cup twice in the space of just 3 years, famously bringing Real Madrid's dominance in the competition to an abrupt end. Following Benfica's second European crown, Guttmann asked the Benfica directors for a modest pay rise, which they denied. Guttmann quit and declared that Benfica would never become European champions again, a prophecy that has since been proven correct. Since then, the club have lost 8 European finals, the first coming in 1963 and the most recent in 2014. Before the 1990 European Cup final, played in Vienna, where Guttmann is buried, Eusebio travelled to his former manager's grave and prayed to him to break the curse. It was to no avail. Benfica were beaten 1-0 by an exceptional AC Milan side. Ramsey's death curse. A bit of a silly one, not as if any of these curses are real, somehow the Aaron Ramsey curse seems particularly daft to me. Another one that I suspect most of you are somewhat familiar with, or our UK viewers at least, around sort of 2011, a theory began on social media and later spread to print media that every time Aaron Ramsey scored, a celebrity or high-profile individual died. The first time I can remember it becoming a thing, so to speak, was probably when Osama bin Laden was killed. Ramsey scored the only goal of the game for Arsenal as they beat Manchester United on May 1st, 2011, and the following day, bin Laden was dead. A lot of people suggested that Ramsey's goal had something to do with it, but if you recall, the real reason was that bin Laden was shot dead at point-blank range by US Navy SEALs in an enormous covert operation in Pakistan as a result of orchestrating the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers, in which almost 3,000 people were killed. Whilst admittedly Ramsey scored 4 goals which were followed by the deaths of Osama bin Laden, Colonel Gaddafi, Steve Jobs and Whitney Houston, who were all sorts of A-listers on the goal that was followed by a death front, I would suggest, some of his subsequent deceased celebs have been a little less impressive. And it's pretty much my idea that this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you could find a celebrity of one type or another who has died after just about anyone scores, even Messi and Ronaldo. Urrea's curse on Cali. I don't talk nearly enough about South American football on this channel, which is something I ought to correct, and I might as well start now with a curse that will be very familiar with our small number of Colombian subscribers. Those of you who have read my book will know that Colombian football only turned professional at the end of the 1940s, and when it did, the owners of Colombian outfit America de Cali had a discussion about whether or not the club should turn professional. The almost unanimous decision was that they should, except for one dissenting voice. Benjamin Urrea told the club's other owners that they could do whatever they wanted with the team, but I swear to God, they will never be champions. Originally, the curse was thought to be on America's fortunes in Colombia's new nationwide league, which the club didn't win until 1979, although since then, they have been the most successful club in Colombian football domestically, winning 14 league titles. Since then, however, the curse has come to be viewed through the lens of the Copa Libertadores, the competition designed to crown the true champions of South American club football. America de Cali have played in a record 4 Libertadores finals without winning the competition, with all of their finals coming in an 11-year period between 1985 and 1996, and 3 of them coming in a row between 1985 and 1987. Which doctor curses the Socceroos? Australia's national team have never been synonymous with success in the World Cup, only once having reached the knockout stages, but some associate their struggles for a large period of time to a curse cast on them by a Zimbabwean witch doctor. The infamous incident occurred when the Socceroos travelled to what was then called Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, for a 1970 World Cup qualifier. Having won their Asian and Oceanic qualifying group, Australia faced Rhodesia for a chance to go into the final qualifying round. Following 2 draws between the 2 teams, the game went to a final sudden death tie. Before the final game, the Australian players consulted a witch doctor who buried bones near the goalposts and cursed the Aussies' opponents, and the Socceroos ran out 3-1 winners. Unfortunately, after the game, the players couldn't come up with the £1,000 that the witch doctor demanded, so she reversed the curse and put it on them. Australia subsequently lost to Israel in the final qualifying round, and the only time that they did qualify for the World Cup over the next 32 years, in 1974, they didn't win any of their 3 games. The curse was said to be lifted in 2004 when an Aussie film crew returned to Zimbabwe and found a witch doctor to reverse the curse, and in 2006, Australia reached the knockout stages for the first time in their history at the World Cup, and they have qualified for every World Cup since. Disclaimer, witches don't exist. It's absolutely mental that there are still countries where you can be prosecuted and even executed for practicing witchcraft, and the reason Australia did well at the 2006 World Cup was because they had better players than they'd ever had in the past. Leverkusen. Okay, so I said I don't believe in curses, but there is something strange about Bayer Leverkusen. Nicknamed Leverkusen by many German football fans, the club named after a pharmaceutical company are still yet to find a cure for their wretched inability to win the Bundesliga title. Leverkusen have been ever present in the Bundesliga since winning promotion in 1979, and they have routinely been among the strongest teams in the division. They have finished in the top 6 an incredible 26 times, the top 3 10 times, and they have finished as Bundesliga runners-up on 5 separate occasions. No other team has finished as Bundesliga runners-up more than twice without winning the league on at least 1 occasion, and Borussia Mönchengladbach have won 5 Bundesliga titles despite only finishing as runners-up twice. Of all the great Leverkusen or Weserkusen moments though, none quite compare to their tragic 2001-02 campaign. Going into the final few games, Leverkusen had the chance to complete a historic treble, as they led the Bundesliga table and had booked their place in both the DFB Pokal and Champions League finals. Surely, they had to win one of them. Well, any normal club would. Leverkusen lost 2 of their last 3 league games, missing out on the Bundesliga title by 1 point to Borussia Dortmund. They were beaten 2-1 by Hertha Berlin in the final of the DFB Pokal, and finally, they fell to a Zinedine Zidane wonder strike, losing 2-1 again in the Champions League final at Hampden Park. They still managed to pull off a historic treble, but for all the wrong reasons, and in true Leverkusen style. And to think, Spurs fans think they have it bad. Romani curse over St Andrews. There was a sort of stadium arms race among English clubs in the early 20th century which would come to define the entire future of English football, with only clubs who managed to build large stadia during that era having enjoyed success in the many decades since, right up to the present day. With the building of such significant venues came some human displacement though, often of the Romani gypsy community, and thus began a spree of Romani curses among Football League clubs. One such curse came following the construction of Birmingham City's home ground of St Andrews, with the Romani community putting a 100-year curse on the Blues back in 1906. For an entire century, the club from Birmingham tried all sorts to get rid of the curse, but it just couldn't be done, and they failed to win a single major trophy. The curse came to an end in 2006, and 4 years on, the club won their first proper trophy, beating Arsenal at Wembley in the League Cup final. There was a similarly well-known Romani curse put on Derby County when they built the baseball ground in 1889, which led to the displaced community putting a curse on Derby which stated that they would never win the FA Cup. Within the space of just 7 years, between 1896 and 1903, Derby County reached 6 FA Cup semi-finals and 3 finals, but they could never get their hands on the FA Cup. Before their 1946 final against Charlton Athletic, more than 50 years on from the curse, the club sought negotiations with the Romanian community to end the curse. It was unclear whether they had been successful, but with the game at Wembley tied at 1-1, the ball burst, and after that Derby went on to win 4-1 with the new ball. It has long been suggested that the moment the ball burst, the curse ended, and that was why the Rams ran out 4-1 victors. I say, don't be so stupid, that team had a forward line containing Rach Carter, Peter Doherty, Dally Duncan, and Jackie Stamps. It's a disgrace that they weren't 4-0 up before half-time. Hibs' Harp curse. Outside of Celtic and Rangers, only 2 Scottish teams have won more trophies than Hibernian, and none have won more league titles. Hibs have been crowned champions of Scotland 4 times, in addition to winning 3 Scottish League Cups, but it's their Scottish Cup curse that we are concerned with here. Between 1887 and 1902, Hibs reached 3 Scottish Cup finals, winning 2 of them, making it at that time their most successful competition. However, Hibernian subsequently went an incredible 114 years without tasting success in Scotland's Premier Cup competition, despite reaching 10 Scottish Cup finals, winning 3 Scottish League Cup titles and 3 league titles during that time. Clearly, with a run like that, someone had to come up with a totally mental theory about the reasons for Hibs' poor fortune. And so came the myth of the Gypsy Curse, supposedly set upon Hibs by an Irish woman during stadium refurbishments in the 1950s. Hibs previously had a harp emblem emblazoned upon their south stand in recognition of the club's Irish roots and tradition. The emblem was removed for the stadium refurbishment in the 1950s and never reinstated, leading an outraged Irish woman to apparently put a curse on the club, preventing them from winning the Scottish Cup, because that tends to be what mystics with supernatural powers get up to in their free time. To cut a long story short, Hibernian put up a facade of their modern-day club badge, which includes a harp, on the stadium's west stand at the start of the 2015-16 season. And within 8 months, the club had won their first Scottish Cup in 114 years in dramatic fashion against Rangers. So that's it for today's nonsense. Video. In all seriousness, it's all just a bit of fun, and I doubt anyone takes the idea of curses and sorcery too seriously these days. If you are watching this though, whether it's Thor, Mithras, or the ancient Hindu god of Vishnu, and you have put a curse on Hull City, look, we're sorry about awarding a £45,000 a week contract to Jimmy Bullard. None of us like him, and we deeply regret the fact that the celebration he did whilst playing for us, which wasn't even his idea, seems to have been the launchpad for the odious Toad's career in the media. Forgive us for our sins, we will accept the League Cup. To be honest, right now, I'd just settle for new owners and a League One playoff final we're actually allowed to attend. Thank you all for watching today's video and for hearing my prayers. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, hit the dislike button for 50 years of bad luck, and leave a comment if you'd like to put a curse on me for making this video so painfully long. I appreciate your viewership and support as ever. Make sure that you are subscribed to HITC Sevens, and if you want to curse me on social media, the username is just @HITC Sevens on both Twitter and Instagram.